Continuing our discussion on the national budget as presented yesterday, we now turn to some key of the issues raised and their potential impact. To help us understand better these developments, we are joined by Eric Odongo, an economist at the Civil Society Advocacy Group, that is CSBAG. Eric, welcome to Weekend Edition.
Thank you.
Let's start with the basics. Some have called this a progressive national budget compared to the previous ones we've been having. So I would like to ask, from your perspective, what are the big ideas that came out of it that made them come up to a conclusion that this particular budget is different from the others?
Yeah, I think what we are seeing in this budget is huge optimism on the side of our government. Government is really optimistic that this time we're going to raise 37 trillion to finance this budget. So that is something unique because we have not yet reached 30 trillion in previous budgets in terms of mobilization of revenue. So we are really so optimistic that we shall reach 37 trillion this year in this budget. Okay. But also when you look at this budget, it is the first budget in our tenfold growth agenda as a country. So we are optimistic that by 2040 we would be in $500 billion. And this is the first budget which is taking us to $500 billion. You also realize we just approved our NDP4. So this is the first budget of NDP4. So with all those factors around this budget, that's why someone would say we are really optimistic that this is a budget which is taking us on a journey to get to where we want to be.
Now, if you had to look into this budget critically, what do you think are some of the issues that were not addressed to the satisfaction of the Ugandans?
And there's something on borrowing and public debt. It is really concerning because, as you can see, we are punching at 37 trillion, but then when you look at the burden we have in terms of debt, it is really becoming an issue which is concerning. But that is not just a problem. The issue is in how debt is being used, because we have put out our plans out there, but how are we using the money which we are borrowing to execute those plans? We already have debt which we have not yet used, but we are getting more to finance the budget. There's already what I've alluded to, and that is revenue mobilization. There's already some issue there because we are not yet supporting our private sector properly to fund this budget. So those are a few issues of concern. Then when you look at also service delivery, there's a very, very serious problem whereby allocations to local government where most services are being delivered is a bit small. So you find that issues around health, education, much as the health budget may appear to have increased, but then when you look at exactly how someone is getting drugs in a health center 2, which we had said we are upgrading to health center 3. That is where you are now going to begin seeing that bit of skepticism on the side of a citizen.
Okay. And on that point of health, let's also double it up with education. Now, there are some trends with within education and health that need to be addressed further in the coming financial years.
Yes, specifically on the functionality.
Okay.
You know, we are putting schools in place, but then how are we maintaining the schools? We are putting facilities, hospital facilities in place, but how are we maintaining them? You'll find a school will lose one iron sheet in a storm, but then we don't have a budget to repair that one iron sheet. Tomorrow the entire roof is gone, the wall will come down, then we need to now replace an entire block. So those are the simple issues which require attention, that even when we are expanding on infrastructure, we need to have a plan on how we are maintaining them. For example, if you visited any local government in the countryside, you're most likely to find a yard of broken down cars, broken down equipment. So we don't have a serious strategy on how to really address those small issues. Even in terms of disposal of those assets, at least when they are still of value, we are not yet doing that properly.
Okay. And for those out there who are trying to understand this budget, what are the big pointers where they need to pay more attention to in the upcoming financial year? Yes,
for the private sector, government has allocated 1.4 trillion for domestic areas. That is a very, very good intervention, because in the draft of this same budget, the allocation was 200 billion, but now it is 1.4 trillion. So at least so many people will get paid, and private sector will have liquidity. So that is an issue to look out for. But also there is a tax reform where new businesses that will open from 1st of July will have an income tax exemption. So that's a very good thing, especially for our economy, which is dominated by the small businesses. So there are a bit of good allocations you can see in infrastructure. There's money on roads, there's money for the railway. We are very optimistic that when oil production begins, the Kawaga airport is almost complete. So there are some good sides of our budget, which on paper can cause some excitement. But then we have a small issue of implementation. How are we going to implement this budget? First, from raising revenue. Then secondly, on how these entities are going to absorb this money. Because those are also some issues we have seen in the past. An entity gets all the money it has budgeted for, but it cannot use it. Maybe because it doesn't have the right staff, or it is not well equipped to execute what it is supposed to.
All right, Eric, your final thoughts as we beat up this conversation.
Final thoughts, it's a very good budget. Let us pay attention to its implementation. For the case of debt, it is very important that we follow up on how these debt-funded projects are being implemented. Because tomorrow, we have a debt to pay. Whether the project was done or not, we shall still have to pay the debt.
Okay. And thank you very much for joining us, Eric. Now, just to remind you, Eric Odongo is an economist with the Civil Society Advocacy Group.